By the time she reached her 40s, Joan found the parts drying up. You know, she couldn't play the juvenile lead anymore. She couldn't be the interesting older actress.
It just wasn't acceptable for women in their 40s to be thought of as being glamorous. They were chucked on the dung heap.
Just a few years before, she'd been starring alongside some of the Hollywood greats. Now it was more B-movie than A-list.
I mean, she's made some clunkers along the way. I think Empire of the Ants is right down there.
She was in a swamp basically being eaten by giant ants. And she would send us photographs, Polaroids of her on the set being eaten by ants. And at the bottom of the Polaroid it would say, "This is what your mother is doing to put food on the table."
But eventually, even the low-budget offers stopped coming in.
The situation got so bad that she actually signed on. So she would stand in her fur coat waiting to get her benefit. And to show her sense of humour, she once had a licence plate made for her car saying Joan Who.
It was a family member who gave Joan some startling career advice.
Her father, Joe, made the serious suggestion, I think, that she perhaps ought to strip on screen.
And so strip she did in the 1978 film The Stud. And then again, a year later, in The Bitch.
It was soft porn. It really was just soft porn, and it was very brave. I thought it was very courageous of her to do it.
But I remember it being very shocking stuff. I worked with Oliver Tobias on the next film he did after The Stud, and he had a few stories to tell about Joan, which of course I'm much too ladylike to repeat.
It's never easy to watch your mother naked on a swing. After the therapy, you move on. But
I was taken aback because they're quite graphic, and to see your mother commingling with a gentleman on the screen is an odd experience,
Oh, but I bought these specially for you.
I was upset by it in a way I couldn't quite compute at that time. A kind of feeling in my belly of this is odd, this is off, this is not quite right, and I don't like it.
Well, just for the record, I did like it.
Well, just for the record, I hated it. I hated doing those scenes. But this was a time when Jane Fonda and Glenda Jackson and Julie Christie were taking off their gear all over the place. Nobody said anything about them doing soft porn, but me, I got it from all sides. And...
Quite literally, from what I'm saying. Good old Oliver Tobias, eh? Were you and Oliver ever...
And absolutely not.
No way.
I have very, very rarely been with my leading men, no. I'm not keen on actors. I love actors. I love them. But I don't want to be with somebody who's fighting for the mirror. Don't. If somebody's going to be looking in the mirror, it's going to be me. I don't want to have to push that other person out of the
I mean, despite the obvious fantastic impact on your career that it had, looking back, do you regret making The Stud?
Well, I don't really regret anything, but I mean, now that I see how it upset my children, which I didn't realise at the time that it would upset them as much as it obviously did, yes, I suppose I do regret it. I mean, I certainly didn't get paid very much for it. I mean, pauper's wages, considering, for an actor. But it did certainly have a certain resurrection in my career, which I think was one of the reasons that I got Alexis in Dynasty.
I mean, I read that Sacha's friends were sort of bringing pictures of you in to school and stuff. I mean, when you think back about the reality of him, he seemed... I mean, your daughter seems to think it was a bit of a laugh, but a bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
He seems a little bit more affected by it at the time, perhaps, than you may have realised.
I think when I went to visit him at boarding school, and I said, "What are all those boys following you for, Sacha?" When we were walking around the grounds with one of the headmasters, and he said, "It's you. They're trying to get pictures of you and look at you." He said, "Because of those movies you've made, Mummy." I said, "I'm sorry, but, somebody's got to pay the school fees." And I was basically the breadwinner, quite frankly.
I mean, that scene when you're swinging on the swing,
Yes.
I mean, when you look at it, do you feel ashamed,
No.
embarrassed,
Look
or...
at that body. You
Well, that's
think
what
I'd
I was
be
thinking.
ashamed?
I was thinking that. I mean,
No way. And everyone say, oh, my God, she's over 40. Look at that body. Yeah. No, I
how
was
old were you when you did those scenes?
I think 42, 43, somewhere like that. I
You
can't
did
remember.
look fabulous.
I know. Well, you know, I've never... I mean, yeah, I look fabulous there. I mean, there are times when I haven't. But I'm very able to look at myself objectively and say, yes, you look great. No, you looked horrible.
Have you enjoyed being a sex symbol?
If I enjoyed it, I guess I really sort of wasn't aware of it. It's only now, you know, some old guy will come up to me and say, oh, you know, you were my pin-up when I was in Korea, not Korea, the one after.
I was going to say, that is going back a bit.
Yes. When I did all those pin-up pictures, God, I've done a lot, I didn't really realise what they were for.
You see, I'm not sure I believe you. You were the sex symbol.
Well, you want me to spell this out in a crude way?
Yes.
That I thought that men would use those photographs in magazines for certain nefarious purposes.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that what they're for? I
No,
didn't
I've honestly
really.
no idea what you're talking
it didn't
about.
really penetrate. Oh, so you never did.
Anybody got any oxygen out there? Why did the roles dry up for you, do you think, around that time?
Because they dry up for all actresses over the age of 43, 44, particularly if you're good-looking. You know, if you're Olympia Dukakis, you can go on, and even Shirley MacLaine and lots of people. But if you are considered to be, you know, very attractive, it's very hard in that interim period. Once you get to a much older, so you can play the older mother or the older grandmother, then it's easier. But I think that if you are considered to be beautiful and sexy, and then you are in your mid-40s and pushing 50 or whatever, it's tough. That's why it was a miracle that I got Dynasty when I was 47.
I interviewed Cindy Crawford recently,
Yes.
who said the thing she missed most was the ability to walk down a high street and see every man's head turn.
Oh,
because
really?
she was no longer able to have that effect, even though she
Really?
looks amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
She said when she was 21,
Yes,
the roads would stop.
yes.
Did you feel the same way? I mean, did you
No.
have that same thing?
No, I never missed that. I was rather pleased, actually. It's always a bit embarrassing.
What was it like for you to go to a job centre after all the success you'd had and all the stardom to then actually have to sign on?
Well, Piers, I've always believed that life is not a bowl of cherries. You know, I mean, it's a bowl of cherry pits. And the happy ever after syndrome, I was aware, was just a fairy tale. And so when I got to the stage where I thought, I'm not desperate for money, but I did have the children, and I did have a certain lifestyle that I was trying to keep up. And Samantha Eggar, a fellow Hollywood actress, English, said, you know, go to the job centre. You know, you're entitled to get $100 a week. You know, you've paid your dues. So I went and I stood in the line, and I was catching very curious glances from everybody because I'd just come from opening a friend's shop. And I was also driving a Mercedes, a rather new one, which was
They're all thinking, what are you doing
full
here?
of flowers. And I was wearing this floral fairy frock, you know, floral frock with a raincoat over it. And the people were looking at me, and then I finally sort of got to the top of the queue, and the woman looked at me and she said, "Hey, didn't you used to be Joan Collins?" I said,
How did
yes,
you
I
feel?
still am." Embarrassed, because then everybody looked and they were thinking, and they were kind of poorly dressed, and I thought, I don't really need this $100 a week. I can survive, and I will survive.
Did you love the attention that came with the role of Alexis?
Yes,
Magazine
I mean, that's,
covers, you know.
one cannot deny that being on magazine covers is a bit like a drug. But at the same time, if you're smart like me, you know it's not going to last.
So, Joan, you'd had a few lean years, but you were about to get the role that was to launch your career into the stratosphere. Despite the success of The Stud and the Bitch, by 1981, Joan was back on stage.
She was doing some kind of cheap equivalent of an Agatha Christie mystery play. And it wasn't going well, and the attendance wasn't very good, and she'd just broken her wrist, and she was trying to do the part with this broken wrist. It was all very difficult.
Just around the corner was the part that was to define her. She'd taken a call from the producers of a little-known US soap called Dynasty, who wanted her to spice up the show.
She's playing the lead role, and a lead role of a mean, sadistic, snarling, greedy bitch. And she loved it.
She's the only person at that time who could have played that part, I think.
At its peak, it was shown in 70 countries around the world and seen by 150 million people a week.
I don't know how much Joan made, but whatever she made, she deserved it, because, in my opinion, I think she made the show.
Certainly, at one point, she was earning $50,000 a week. She was the highest paid actress on television anywhere in the world.
Joan's private life had become a bit of a soap opera itself, and things between her and husband number 3, Ron Cass, weren't going well.
Unfortunately, what happened to Ron is that a recreational drug habit developed into something much bigger. Unbeknown to Joan, he wasn't looking after her finances in the way that she assumed was happening, and they just couldn't make the marriage work. She had to let him go.